Good morning. If Wednesday's video wasn't proof that these are all one take affairs, I'm sure today's will prove that I'm doing these all in one take. So you may hear me taking a sip of water. You may hear my neighbor's dog barking. You may hear a whole bunch of interruptions. I'm going to do my best to take this in one take and make it as painless as possible. I also am going to apologize because I'm pretty sure that this might be one of the longer videos that you guys will be subject to. But because the annotated bib and the research paper depend on each other, I'm going to take a lot of time to run through both papers at the start. Excuse me. And there's another example of the one take. So the annotated bib is kind of an evaluation of some of the things that you're doing when you research. The research paper is the results of your research. Let's get on with some basics. The due dates. The topic should be selected and approved by the 25th, which is Monday. I know that's not a lot of lead time, but the topic is supposed to be tied to the novel, The Life We Bury. I'll give you some suggestions later on because I understand that some of you may not have the book yet. So I'll give you some suggestions there. But I want the topic tied to The Life We Bury. The preliminary thesis and initial sources. I want people to start researching right away and to kind of take a stand on whatever topic they're talking about. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through the presentation. Is due next Wednesday. The first entry in the bibliography or the annotated bibliography is due on the 29th. Only one entry. And I want that due the 29th, especially for the people who are scheduled to do the writing lab on the 29th. I want to be able to walk through some of the work with them. The annotated bib itself is due on the 8th. This paper, the final research paper, is due on the 17th. These dates will be posted on D2L under the Getting Started tab. There will be kind of more information for both the annotated bib and for the research paper. As I said, the annotated bib is a setup for the research paper. It will allow you to practice doing the citations for your works cited page on the research paper, and it will allow you to evaluate sources that you're going to use for your research paper. Let's go through this kind of step by step, shall we? Here's the basics. You create a works cited citation for each article. You write a 3 or 4 sentence summary of the article, no longer. The summary should be the briefest part of this thing. And you write a 1 to 2 paragraph response to the article. The annotation should be about 150 to 200 words. The final annotated bibliography will cover 3 sources. The paper is going to ask for more than 3. The final annotated bib will just cover 3 sources that you're using in the research paper. And again, it's important to understand these are sources you are going to use in your research paper. All right, that you actually use in the paper. If you toss it out, don't put it in your annotated bib. Okay, and again, I want to emphasize one other thing while we're still on this slide. The summary is the shortest part. The evaluation is the meat, and we'll get to that more as we go here. We use the MLA format in English classes. In a science class, they may use APA, or in a social science class, I can't remember, I think they use APA as well. English uses MLA. This is an English class, we're going to use MLA. The citation format matters, all right? The purpose of the citation is not for me to go through and check, did you put every quotation mark and every italics and every period and every comma in the right place? The purpose of the citation is so that other people can double check your research. And because we want other people to be able to double check the research, a standard format is important. So, author's last name, comma, author's first name, period. Title of the article, title of the journal. Notice that that's in italicized. A volume, issue, year of publication, page numbers, and the database you found it. Down below here is a sample. And again, I will have this up on D2L. There will be a document on the Getting Started page that will give you, I think it's the same sample, so that if you need to refer back to it without having to listen to my voice, you can. So you're going to have the citation, and then underneath the citation, you're going to have the summary, and you're going to have the evaluation. Then you'll have a new citation, and then you'll have the summary and the evaluation for that article, and go from there. There is an EBSCOhost cheat for this, and I'll talk more about EBSCOhost later, but if you find an article that you want to use, for example, this article about the My Lai massacre and Vietnam in 1968 and Descent into Darkness, you'll notice that on the right-hand column, there's it's circled here on screen, there's a thing for the citation, to cite. And you will come up and there will be a whole list of options, what type of citation you want. If you scroll down on the main part of the screen, you will come to MLA. Once you get to that MLA, you should be able to copy and paste that, and it should be close enough so that you can not have to make too many edits. Instead of typing everything out step by step, you can just do a quick check here, make sure you're following all the steps, and go from there. I'll talk more about EBSCOhost in a few minutes, but once you get to the articles on EBSCO, they all have this option off on the right-hand column for a citation, and then all you have to do is find the MLA thing and copy and paste, and then change your font so that it all fits. The summary should be brief. I've said that 3 or 4 times, and I'm going to keep emphasizing that. In the summary, identify the authors and their qualifications. State the article's thesis in a complete sentence, and identify the points the author used to develop the thesis in 2 or 3 sentences. That's it. Who is it? What's the point? How did they prove the point? That's your summary. Very, very brief. I don't think anybody should be spending more than 3 sentences, 4 sentences tops on that summary. On the evaluation, it is the meat of the entry. Everything you are trying to do with the research should be an evaluative thing. This is a critical writing class. Critical writing means being critical about the sources you're using. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of the article? How does this compare? Excuse me, I apologize. How does this compare with others that you're reading? All right. Does it contradict everything? Does it have better methodology? Does it have better examples? Does it have worse examples? How does it compare with everything else? Explain how the article will support or contradict your thesis. And since I'm looking at a typo here, please make sure that you have the spell checker working, and please make sure that you don't have typos in your paper. Okay. Identify other research avenues the article may lead you to explore. Okay. Is there something in here that you can add to? Is there something in here that can help you make a better paper? Okay, I said earlier I would talk about the paper topics, so let's take some time and run through the paper topics. The topics should be things that can be tied to the novel, The Life We Bury. All right? If it's mentioned in the book once, if it's a main theme of the book, if it's something you can tie to the book, we're good. So, autism. The protagonist's brother suffers from autism. All right. Protagonist is in college. He has to work a couple of jobs. One of the characters is in a nursing home. So you can talk about nursing home care. You can talk about things that should be done to make nursing homes better. You can talk about whether, for example, instead of nursing homes, we should have foster elder care. There's a used car salesman, so you can talk about the used car industry and the changes that have occurred in the used car industry and whether those changes are good or bad. The protagonist's mother is addicted to alcohol and gambling. Gambling leads you to casinos. He talks about the Minnesota Twins. So you can talk about the history of professional baseball in Minnesota. The My Lai massacre. The character was in Vietnam. The character in the nursing home was in Vietnam. So you can talk about all sorts of elements in Vietnam. I picked the My Lai massacre because there was an atrocity similar to that talked about in the book. I think the beginning of chapter 2 talks about labor unrest in Minnesota. Later on, the Innocence Project is there. All of these are just things mentioned in the book. If it's mentioned in the book, you can more than likely write a paper on it. When you submit the topic for approval, be sure to explain the link between the topic and the novel. All right? Why does it tie to the novel? Work to narrow the focus to something manageable. The Vietnam War is not manageable. Most of the subjects listed on the previous slides are too broad for a 5-page paper. So make sure that it is a manageable thing for a 5-page paper. And this paper topic should be argumentative, not informative. So if you're going to talk about nursing home care, is there a better way to do it? You're going to argue that we should be doing something different. You're going to advocate for a change. If you're going to talk about the My Lai massacre, you were going to talk about perhaps that it was worse than people made it out to be at the time. Perhaps we need to re-examine it. Perhaps it shows that we need to look at the differences. Look at other atrocities that have happened. You're going to have to look for arguments. You're going to have to look for connections. You're going to have to look for something where you're taking a stand on the issue, not just telling me that something happened. For example, if the argument, if you just want to say it's sunny outside today or it's cloudy outside today, that's an informative statement. All right. The argument is getting people to do something with the information, getting people to acknowledge that the information provokes the need for a change. This is going to be an argumentative paper. I'll talk about that more in the next couple of classes as we're getting started here. All right, this is a research paper. Research paper means doing research. And as much as possible, I want people to avoid the obvious spots of just going to Google. And I want people to avoid copying and pasting from Wikipedia articles because that's plagiarism and that's an automatic F. All right. And I think that one of the things that we have to do as we're going through and doing research is work to evaluate the sources, work with respectable sources. Okay. A lot of times on a Wikipedia article, down at the bottom of the page, there's a whole list of sources. Most of them are probably pretty good. At the same time, I think, colleges and universities all have access to online databases. Mount Marty has access to a few online databases. So I want to talk about using those online databases and how you can find articles and I think make your life easy as you're finding articles. In the Getting Started column of the D2L class page, there's a document called Accessing SDL Databases. The top of that page has a link. When you click on the link, you're going to get to the Welcome to South Dakota Share It page. and then click on the resources A to Z list link. Select a database. I think that the best database will be the EBSCO Academic Search Premier. It doesn't say EBSCO, and so it's alphabetized, and Academic Search Premier will probably be the first one that you see. When you're searching with Academic Search Premier, you type in a search term, you click on search. On the left side of the screen, and you'll see a screen cap here on the next couple of slides, limit the searches to full text, limit it to peer-reviewed journals, and limit it to 2017 through 2021. So, the My Lai massacre is the thing that I was going to look at. If you look off to the left, I've clicked on the full text box. I've clicked on the scholarly journals. I've limited it from 2017 to 2020. If there was something in 2021, you can add the 2021. All right. So you've got a search term. Once you get there, full text. That way you don't have to worry about whether it's actually going to have the information or not. And we want reliable sources, so we're looking for the scholarly sources. And then you're going to have the list. You can see that I have 11 articles. We might have to go look at some other databases or something like that. But for right now, that's enough to get me started. Once you want to start evaluating the articles, you want to open the articles that look interesting. You want to open the articles that apply. Ever so often, you're going to get things that don't seem to apply at all. Use the PDF option. Okay? And I'll show you that in a sec. Skim the articles to determine whether they have worthwhile information. Skimming is pretty easy. Take a look at the abstract. That's the very beginning of the article. I will caution you about the abstract, that the abstract frequently is not written by the author. So, go to the introduction. As you go through the article, a lot of times there are sections, and each section will have a conclusion, as well as the whole article having a conclusion. So look at the conclusions. If it's worth saving, click on the Google Drive icon that should be the right-hand side of the page, not the left. It's my bad. On the right-hand side of the page, follow the prompts to save the article to Google Drive. The first time they're going to ask you for permissions. And then go to Google Drive and look for the folder. So, here on the left-hand side, you see the PDF full text for the Howard Jones. Click on that, skim it and go from there. You might have to back up a little bit. Over here is that Google Drive. Click on that. There'll be a couple of steps you might have to go through, but it'll go automatically to your folder. Here's my Google Drive folder. You'll see the EBSCO, and you can also double check by opening the folder. I'll show you that in a second. But off to the side here, if you have that sidebar open, this article, the title shows up right there to let you know that it's there. And again, I can see right there that it's there. And here's the article right there. So it's in my Google Drive folder. I can now open it up. I can now download it to my computer. I can read it. I can copy and paste and start making my notes. I have the thing that I need right there. It's easy. It is ridiculously easy to make things work that way. Okay, next, the research paper proper. The research paper is, as I've said earlier in this presentation, supposed to be somewhat argumentative. So pick an article that you can make a stand on, that you can voice your opinion on, and that you can use the research to support that stand. I want to emphasize again, this is not informative. This is argumentative. This is persuasive. Here's the basics. 5 pages, double-spaced, 1-inch margins. 4 to 10 different sources. It's a 5-page paper. more than 10 sources, I don't think is going to be very useful. All right. 4 to 10, you're trying to develop your points. You're trying to explain how and why something matters. I've emphasized this several times. I'll repeat it. The topic should be argumentative, not informative. Because it's argumentative, provide analysis. Don't just restate the facts. Use the information to support the analysis. Information should never just speak for itself. The information that you're giving should always be used to prove a point. Again, to go back to the point I'm trying to make here, if I'm talking about the weather is nice outside, what am I supposed to do with that? Should I go take a walk? That might be a good idea. Should I get everybody else outside to go take a walk? Should we have class outside? Here's my fact. Okay? You've got a point you want to make. Use the fact to prove that point. Quoted and paraphrased material must be cited properly. I will talk about that in a future class, but remember, you don't get to steal money, you don't get to steal cars, you don't get to steal ideas. And when you quote somebody or when you paraphrase their ideas without giving them information, it's as if you're stealing their ideas. Paper has to have a works cited page. And as I've said earlier, the final paper is due on the 17th of February at 11:59 p.m. All right. And no, I'm not going to be awake to double check everybody. Okay. But as I will, the point is, when I wake up on the 18th, I want to spend some time and start correcting papers. Today's daily writing. First of all, remember to answer this question in the comment section of the video before 9 a.m. And also, please make sure that you're identifying yourself. Please make sure you're logged in with your Mount Marty Google account. Everybody, I think, eventually got identified through the course of the day on Wednesday, but at the start, some people weren't. So please make sure you've logged in with your Mount Marty Google account so that I know who's made the comments and who hasn't. This response should be 3 or 4 sentences. Just tell me the experiences you've had writing a research paper. If it's no experience, tell me what other kinds of papers you have had experience writing. Tell me, how many research papers you have written. If you had to write one last semester, how long was it? All right. Just talk about the experience of writing a research paper. Okay, you who are watching this video on the YouTube channel that the Mounts provided through their link to Google, I hope to see you in class on Monday and get to start putting, I don't know if I can put names to faces, but at least names to eyeballs and foreheads. And I hope you all have a good weekend. Please remember to come to class Monday with one question or one comment ready to go so that we can start class that way. Once again, have a good weekend. See you Monday.